Hello, everybody. Gonna get rid of this. I was just doing a quick test so that I can make um, the what's it called? The thumbnail for the video for this actual video, because we're going to be talking about creating a simple UI for Maya using Python inside of here, and it's just going to be a simple one to get you started. A lot of people have been asking me recently how to make windows using Python, and they just wanted kind of just the basics. Later on, we'll go back and we'll cover more of the advanced features of doing the windows, but in this lesson, we're actually going to be doing only a basic window, so that way we can actually just generate a window and then gather information from that. So let's get started. I have a Python tab open here, and I am going to do import Maya.cmds as MC, and I don't need a dot there. And in this series of tutorials, I have done it in the past, but in this series, we haven't talked about if statements or functions yet. This is jumping ahead just because it's been requested so much, so I am going to do that right now. I'm going to create a definition of a UI, so this is going to be a function that we're creating that houses the UI elements. And then the first thing I want to do is check if the window exists that I'm going to be creating, because if you don't and you've already created one, it's actually going to create multiple windows. So I can show you that first, and then we'll add the if statement. So if you're going to create a window, let's say we call it my win, and we're going to say that variable is equal to mc.window. And we get the name of the window. Let's call it my window. And we will, now that we have my window open, actually don't need anything else at this moment. There's a lot of arguments that we can actually set up for this to adjust the height, the width, the size, if it's scalable or resizable or not, and things like that. But I'm just going to do a basic window right now. And then let's do mc.showWindow. And the window that we want to show is my window. And right now, if I run this, it will store that function, but it doesn't actually run it. So we actually have to call that function in order for it to run. Let's do UI. And we're calling the function and running it. So if we run it, we can see it creates this window here for us. It is called my window, which is the name we gave it. And it shows it. So we need a window a line here where we create the window, and then it will create it in the memory, but then in order to show it, we need to run the show window command. So that is a simple window with nothing in it. So let's add a few things into this window, but let me show you what happens if we run this code again. It will give us an error because it's not a unique window. So if we close this and we try to run it, now it will open up again. So we want to make sure that it doesn't have that error when we create the window. So let's try in here. We'll do an if statement to check to see if there is a window. So we're going to say if mc.window. Then we're going to tell it which window we want to check for. It's going to be my window, which is the name we designated for it. And then we're going to ask if it exists is equal to true. So this line of the if statement, it's checking to see if that window exists. If it does, we are going to do mc.delete UI. And the UI that we want to delete is my window. So here, now we can try running this code again. We get the window. Let's move it off to the side and try running this code again. And we can see that it did get rid of it, and it refreshed it, and it gave us all the new information for that window. So this window is being generated now. We have it being able to rerun this code over and over again, so that way there's no issues when we are creating the window or we want to run the script again. Okay, so let's add some things into the window. I'm going to space this just so that it has a little bit of breathing room. From the point where we create the window, very next line, we want to go in and actually add things inside of the window. One of the most basic things that we can add is text. We need to do mc.text, and then we can say label is equal to, and then we put the string that we want. Do something like this is my window. Close the brackets. So let's rerun this command right now. So this is not the correct argument. Oh, mc.text. This part is not working. I thought the command was text. Let's go check in the window really quick. You can go to the command documentation. It will open up the window for us. And I'm going to check at the command references on the bottom. So this is what I do if I need to check anything. Usually with the examples, you'll see that they'll do like text, the common one. Nope. So let's search for the command up on top. Let me open up the command reference editor. And here we can check text. So there is a command named text. And if we scroll down to the bottom, it does use it the way we wanted it, and it's called label mc.text. I'm wondering why it's not reading it as a command, because you can tell that it will be a command because it turns blue. Is it capitalized? Something is working weird for us right now. It's not capitalized for the command. We created a window. Oh, okay, I know what's happening. I'm adding things into the window, but I actually need some sort of layout in order for the window to work. I think that is the issue that we're having. So let's try mc.column layout. There we go. So we're adding column layout. Anything that is going inside of there has to be set up inside of some sort of layout. They have column layouts, grid layouts, row layouts, a lot of different layouts. But column is a pretty kind of standard one if you're just doing a basic tool. Let's see if this runs now. Invalid syntax. Oh, I have this equal sign. I do not want the equal sign. That is the issue that I had there. Let's try rerunning this now. Perfect. So that line, that command text, what it does, it creates text inside of the window. And it creates something that you can document what you actually want the user to do or give them extra information, things like that. Let's give them some way to input, and I'm just going to input a string so that we can print it and see that it works. I'm going to do mc dot text field. It's with a capital F, sorry. There we go. So text field, and I'll open and close it. So when we run this, you'll see that we get a little text field. I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller so that it kind of makes sense for the size of what we're doing right now. But if we run this, you'll see that we have a text field where we can type information into. Now let's create a button. So the command for a button is just called button. And if I run this by itself, it just gives you the name of the button, which right now is button 27, but we can give it a label. And let's say we'll call this print statement. There we go. So we run it and we can see now that that button says print statement, so it makes sense when I do it here. And let's maybe change the text that we have here so that it's something kind of that makes sense with this whole tool that I'm making up on the fly. This tool is going to be type text to print. There we go. So now when I run that, it updates it here. That is perfect. We have a button now where it says print statement. It's not doing anything yet, so if we push it, it's not going to do anything. Let's set it up to do something. So in order to do that, we need it to run a command. So I'm going to be comma command equals, and let's give the command a name, and we'll have to create the command as well. So here I am going to call it print function. Here we go. So at the end, I'm going to return down. Let's make up a little bit more space so that you guys can see everything working. And we're going to create another function. Actually, I can create it before the UI happens. So here on the function, what I am going to call is I'm going to define the function. It's called print function. Then I need a colon. And going down to this line, I can first let's do a print statement to make sure that it is working. So let's do a print test. So there we go. Right now, it doesn't matter what is in there because we're not getting that information yet. But if we push it, you can see every time I push the button now, it prints the statement test. So let's make this a little bit more functional where we can actually type something into that field. So what we want to do is be able to get the information from that text field, and we're going to store it into a variable. So let's call this p statement. So that's going to be our print statement, and that is going to be equal to this field. We haven't given it a name, so let's put a name. So this is going to be p statement input. So that's the name of this field here. Let's copy this and we'll paste it here. So this variable is going to be equal to this text field, but I only want the information that is inside of the field. So let's go in and query that information. So we're going to say query equals true. And let me make this a little bit nicer. There we go. Query equals true, and then we want to tell it what we want to query, and we're going to query the text equals true. And let's expand this a little bit more so that we can see the whole code. So it's going to query the text and then test, and let's put the variable naming here. So now we're going to be printing p statement. Yep, that looks correct. So now it is looking at this particular text field, which was created up here. We're going to query it, and we're going to tell it to look at what the text is and make that equal to that variable, and then we're going to print that statement. So let's run this command here. We got a new window, and let's type in something like hello world. And we can print that statement, and we can see that it prints that. And if we change it here, I am CGI nerd, and we can print that statement as well. We can print, please hit the like button. And it prints that statement as well. So it gives us a lot of information, or a lot of ability to get whatever information we want in here. Right now, this is a text field. So if you want to actually use numbers instead of a text, there are other types of fields that will end up looking really similar. So if you needed something like an integer, you can do int field. So when we run this again, you'll see that we have an int field here, and it has an int in there, which is 0 by default. And then we can do something like a float field. If I spell it correctly. Float field. And when we run that, you can see that it has a floating point number. So they all look pretty similar, but they take different type of information, where the text field is only type, the int field is only integers, and the float field is for floating point values. The other thing to take note is that with the text field, when you query it, we're querying the text value. But for both the int field and the float field, when we query it, we want to query the value. So instead of text, let's give one of these a name. My int field, or let's keep it consistent with what is above input. So I'll copy this, and I'll do p int for the integer. Actually, let's paste this, and then we'll change the value here. This is going to be p int, and over here we're going to copy this name, which is the int field, paste it there, and we're going to use value. So if we want to add that to the print statement, we would say we want to add the string of p int. So now if we run this, it is saying value is not, oh, because I put this as a text field. That was my mistake, sorry. This is an int field. There you go. So let's try rerunning this, and we got test. And we run this so we can see that it's test 0. If we change this, we can make it 1,000 or whatever value we want it. And it will update that, but we do have to run that as a string, so we're converting it from that integer value to a string value. But if you wanted it to adjust any other type of data inside of your code through the input of the user here, and you needed an integer, you can actually use it straight as an integer rather than converting it as a string. All right, so that is the end of this little video. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.